Let's talk about layers of reality. When I say layers of reality, I'm mainly talking about how we have each layer of whatever experience we're having or access we're having, and from where we're expressing, is a new layer of reality. Before we talk about that, I'm going to talk about the three realities that have multiple layers, just so that we can get an idea of it. Thank you, by the way, for being interested in the last video. If you haven't seen part one, go ahead and go check that out. But anyway, we're going to start with that. So we have the internal reality. We have basically all these kinds of things going on inside us in layers. So the layer that you talk with people about, like, and you present yourself, that's like the surface layer. And then the layers that go within are layers until they reach infinity. And infinity is basically the origins. Everyone has minimum 3 origins. When you have 3 origins, they are points in our, in a conceptual way of creation. So there's all these stories that I talked about in the last video, and the storylines and things like that are the way that we make sense of something extremely abstract. Now, when you find out about these origins, they could be universes, they could be something in the universe, there could be all kinds of things, right? But if we're going to just stick with in here, I'm going to keep going deeper and deeper into our universe that we're in. So anyway, so we have an internal reality, and then we have an internal external reality. The reason why I named it that is because it still has to do with you and how much attention and time you spend on other things, but it's also other groups. So if you're knowing about this group or this group or this group, they're all going to be you voting. Like it's where your energy and the thought that you have, all the thought forms, everything goes to before initially overflowing into the external reality. The external reality is something that we can't access. It's just based on those two things. Now, when people are complaining about elite or governments or celebrities or billionaires, any of those things, those are the groups that have taken advantage of the way that this function is. So it's not that they're not the main problem, they're a virus or a reaction and taking advantage of that setup. So in a way, we as a collective, what we think and being complacent will change those things, right? Okay, so now we know those 3 layers. Those 3 layers are the layers that there's many layers within those layers, right? So when someone says timeline shifts, it doesn't make sense because the person, if you listen to a video that someone talks about this, they're always going to go back to realities. And so if you don't understand what a reality is, you're going to interchange the two. And also time is not going to help because time is a human measurement. So this is the way things work that we're talking about, the infinite mechanics. But these people are not talking like that. They're talking with measurements and for science, which is to help you get finite system things that you need, right? So if we go to back to the realities, they're all about access. So a universe, which from the last video, universe is access. It's what kind of access do you have? And then like what kind of access you get when you have an interface, and what layers do you have access to, and what layers can you see? And so when you have, like I said, access, there's different interfaces. That's what I call them. So you can think of, just for this, a concept. If you think of like a little ball, so you have these little goggles and you look inside that. That is the access you have. So people think that they're incarnating and things like that, and they don't realize that it is the access. So it's not quite like putting a suit on and going in. It's like you have access to that. It's like having access to a type of video game, not the actual avatar, the video game. So like you are a video game. Like it's not a meat suit. It's not those things. That's like the first layers of understanding it. You are literally your own video game, and you kind of change it. You have like a set, and then you change the whole video game. Like it's up to you. But the video game is not for how you live life. The video game is how you have access to life. right? So when you keep that in mind, there are different styles of interfaces. And so when you are interacting with the layers of the external internal realities, that is about collaboration. But at the moment, no one is collaborating. Instead, what they're doing is they're just following what is popular and getting pulled around instead of actually co-creating with the internal external reality. And if you don't do that, the external reality is the whole dimension. So the whole dimension will be in the style of, for example, hierarchies. That you'll hear it when you hear people say things. They'll say things like, "Oh, that's the way it is. Oh, well, you got to do this to do that." That kind of thinking is what they're pulling from that collective of that dimension. So when I say those layers, you go back, if everything gets wild, just go back to those layers. Go back to, okay, so my eyelash has layers, my body has layers, my lips have layers, my bow things have layers, everything has layers, and the layers go into, because it's like a toroidal field, like I said, everything's toroidal field in this universe. It goes back within. So it goes like this. So there's many little onion layers like a toroidal field. And even if you're unconscious of it, you're always returning to your inner origin / infinity / source, all those words, right? But those words mean something. So I recommend looking into each of those because all of them mean something, right? Now that you understand those kind of layers and stuff like that, we're going to talk about interfaces really quick. I'm going to try and not go too much in detail because we can do a specific video for this. But the interfaces, like I said, the video game, basically, you set it up, or it is set up for you. It depends on every scenario. This is the part that's everybody's different. But what a human interface has, and what an animal interface has, and what a plant interface has, is all different steps. The humans have all of them. The animals have a specific thing, and the plants have a specific thing. There's more than that, but I like to do things in like small amounts so that you can explore. I want you to have room to explore so that you can get an idea. These are examples of interfaces. And anything can kind of be an interface, but what makes it an interface is that it does something with the internal external reality. And the thing that all three of us have in common is we can't do anything about the external reality unless we are, I call these intelligences that deal with what we come up with. And there's like intelligences that deal with what we come up with. And then there's the nature that has, in this dimension has dedicated themselves to keeping the cycles running and supporting us while we do whatever we want and try things out. Even it would help us so much if we actually had relationship with nature. It would help ourselves, like our bodies and how we live and our life, but it would also help with any kind of issue that we're like worried about or whatever. They're there being a constant for us. And it was a decision that they made, like the whole thing, like it's complicated. So if you guys want, we can go deep in that. So now you know about interfaces and what that means. And so when you're engaging with something, it might, so like let's say I engage with this little pin cushion. So I'm engaging with this. I have access to picking this up in this, internal external reality. And I can put it down and like move it around and do things with it, right? But this, even though it has the same layers and it goes to the origin, like it has all these layers and goes to the origin, this still cannot interact with me. I can only interact with that. But when it comes to plants and animals, that is a true interface where you can collaborate. And it depends on the human how much they've gotten in touch with the layers so that they can communicate. So human to human, plant to plant, animal to animal. And yeah, it's not what we think. So if you guys want, let me know if you want me to go into detail about any of these things. I hope these helped you have some cool things to think about, because that's all I would like you to do.